So I'm Steve Laval. I'm the co-founder, co-CEO of WonderBotz. We are an implementation solutions firm. We're partners with Druid. We're partners with UiPath. We're partners with Blue Prism, a whole host of other tools at alphabet soup if I start throwing out acronyms.
Steve, I'm sorry, I don't have your slides.
All right, well, then I will do my best to talk for a few minutes. So we're here about agentic. So the problem with agentic AI, or AI agentic, is that nobody really knows what it is at this point. And every time I go to a conference, I like to be the guy that says, hey, could you tell me what it is? And everyone says, oh, well, I got a white paper over here, or I got a Gartner report over here. So we end up using a lot of terms interchangeably with agentic AI, between the agents, between conversational AI, orchestration, all these other kind of bits and pieces. So what I was going to say here is that I'm going to give you a definition. You can take it or not take it. It's really up to you. But to me, agentic AI is not just the agent, but it's the process or the ability to respond to a request over multiple steps. So it's not like it's not a traditional, like, Gus, brilliant, loved Gus there, love Gus. I'm gonna use Gus again later at the end. But the Gus, you ask a question, what class should I take? Gives me an answer. But with agentic AI, here we go, pretty slides. Yeah, right here is fine. With agentic AI, we are orchestrating a series of tasks that might have different paths related to it based upon the context of the question. And the path and the actions taken may be done by a person, may be done by an agent, may be done by another piece of technology. They may not all be from the same place. So when we talk about orchestration, like historically, we've orchestrated, so if I was talking about UiPath, I would use the UiPath orchestrator, and we would run down the process, sub-process after sub-process after sub-process. But now with agentic AI, if I'm going to pull in an agent that's not a UiPath agent, if I'm going to pull in a Druid, something like that, my orchestration mechanism needs to be able to accommodate these different products from the different platforms. And that, for me, is one of the biggest differences between when I talk about agentic AI versus when I'm just talking about AI. So I would say one thing we can all agree on is that it's going to be friggin' huge. It's measured in trillions. This chart, 2.6 to 4.4 trillion, a ridiculous compound annual growth rate. We haven't seen numbers like this for a long time. I've spent my whole career helping companies monetize new technologies, and this is it. This is the next big thing. And I assume we're all here because we've recognized that it's the next big thing. You hit me with the next one. So let me tell you how does it take? When I talk to different vendors and different partners, I think, oh, well, this is agentic. Everything's going to be on my platform. It's all going to be on Druid. I hate to say Druid, but I got to say everything's going to be on Druid. Well, it's probably not all going to be on Druid, but Druid could be the orchestrator across the whole process. So we started with humans and robots, and we called it RPA. Sometimes we call it intelligent automation. Sometimes we call it automation, and sometimes we throw in document processing or whatever. But it's still the basic thing, is that we're doing deterministic task automation based upon rules, okay? And we've done tremendous value with that for companies. They've eliminated a lot of these routine tasks, and everyone was fearful that a lot of people would lose their jobs, and some people did lose their jobs, but more often than not, they got redeployed onto other value work. Because when I talked to the CFOs of companies, I'd say, I'm going to give you the check. You can cash the check and put the money to your P&L, or you could get and start doing those other things that you've wanted to do, but you haven't been able to allocate budget to it. And then more often than not, they would cash a little bit of the check, but most of the effort went back into now expanding the service out to customers or the other value tasks that they didn't have time to do. And I would predict the same thing's going to happen again. So even though Agentic will now, because we can add the AI agent, so I said humans and robots work together, but sometimes you need the human to make a judgment call. So we were talking earlier about an insurance claim. So do I want to approve this claim or not want to approve this claim? We said, well, a simple claim will just approve. A complex claim we want to have a person look at. I was like, well, that's nice, but how do you define simple and complex? How are we going to categorize? How do we know it's simple? How do we know it's complex? Well, now the agents will tell us, hey, this meets the criteria of a simple, this meets the criteria of a complex. So now we say, okay, we'll jet approve the simple ones, and we'll send the complex ones to people, and then we'll get a little smarter. So, well, wait a minute, if it's complex, but it's, from Washington, they're really good in Washington, so it's okay, we'll just let it go. So we can start to learn based upon what's been approved by the people, and we can continuously redefine this simple and this notion of complexity, which will drive more volume through the process. Now, that doesn't mean that the agent is processing all the work. The agent may be triggering a robot. The agent may be notifying a downstream person to do something. That's okay. It doesn't all have to be automated. What we're trying to do is take steps of the process that consume effort and judgment, and we're trying to get really smart on how to do it and consistent in the application of how to do it. And that's what's happening with this when we add agents. Now, all of this, so going back to what I said, leave you, welcome, is around the orchestration layer of this. And that is an area where I think there's work to be done. We looked at the Druid conductor earlier as a potential orchestrator. There are other platforms in the market that do orchestration. We follow the philosophy of what is the best for the need at hand, and not just the individual process, but how we plan on expanding that process and expanding the scope of work at a particular company. But that is what you have to think about. Can we orchestrate multiple platforms? Most of them can do API calls, so that's really not a differentiator. But can I call a robot and ask a robot to do it? Or can I invoke another process? Because you might need an RPA solution to go work at the glass. I think everyone here knows RPA. The big thing about RPA is it can use an interface the same way that a person can. So the agent can ask the robot to pull information off of a screen. So let me hit the next slide. So I think we kind of beat this one to death today in terms of the it's this great thing. It does so it's about the perception, the reasoning, the planning. But I like to, again, focus on the action. Because if we want to operate so value comes from scale. Value doesn't come from yes or no or short answers. It comes from being able to do an operational process over and over and over again, thousands and thousands of times. And that's where again, for us at WonderBotz, we focus in on the action and the ability to operationalize the work. Now the perception is pretty important. Like if we were at another conference, they'd be telling us around how we want to use robots to pull the data out of the systems, so that, because we don't want to give the agent access to our core systems because they may use data that we don't want them to use. So we want to use robots to control the flow of a data. That really, I guess, would depend on the circumstance here. But this is, again, how you have to think about it sort of very, very holistically. This is the next slide. Okay. We had, what was this? I wrote his name down. The guy from Everest gave Anubhav, if he's still here. There. Brilliant example on the claims processing earlier this morning, if you were here. And if you remember, he talked about this entire ecosystem that had IDP in it. It had multiple agents, had like a cost agent and a assessment agent, and they had RPA. This is what we're building, guys. When we talk about agentic, it's not a task and a process. It's a whole process that's orchestrated based upon a starting point. We've worked with some around an inspection process, right? So if you're going to go inspect an asset, well, we're going to go take a picture of the asset. I'm going to start to describe the asset. I need to now transcribe that. I got to understand the words that are said, and then I got to put it into my inspection format, just and then feed the downstream process from the inspection. So anyway, I'm not going to beat this to death. So what's next? Okay, so I was going to end with Satya, who's the Microsoft chairman or CEO or something, right? And he said AI should not be viewed as a tool, but as a strategic enabler for change. But instead, I'm going to end because having beat it to death from the pizza example, I asked Gus. I said, "Tell me about AI." Should I be scared about AI? Is it just a tool? Like, what should I do? So now this is a tool that wasn't even designed to answer this kind of question. This is like completely out of. It should have said, "I'm sorry, I can't help you. Call this number," but it didn't. It said, "There's no reason to be scared," is what it said. It said AI, artificial intelligence, is more than just a tool. It has the potential to revolutionize industries and improve our daily lives by automating tasks, providing personalized recommendations, and solving complex problems. Okay, so here it is. Like the AI is telling us what it is, right? Good. And here we didn't even tell it to be ready for that. So now the combination.
I actually knew you were going to.
You knew I was going to ask that. It was awesome. But again, it's remarkable what Druid can do and the tools can do with the information that it has available to it. So I would kind of end you with is that you have an agent, and we know there are lots of very specialized agents that we'll expect to have across HR, different functions. We're going to teach them. We're going to explain to them how our data works. So you're going to have lots of agents, okay? And then you're going to have conversational AI. And I kind of look at it like that's the common tongue, because conversational AI is the robot. The agent can talk to the robot and can talk to the person, okay? Because the agent speaks computer, which is what you expect it to, but it can also speak English now that we have conversational AI. So that is the glue that enables us to have this agentic, which again, in my view, is mostly defined. What makes it agentic is the orchestration across multiple parts, different parts, not all the same. So when you go back home to your companies and they say, "Oh, well, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that," say to them, "Okay, well, do you have an RPA team? Because if you do, you should make friends with that RPA team because you're going to want to have them execute what the agentic process or the agent has to say. Don't try to create everything on your own from scratch because this is not a rip and replace. This is an and, not an or." So with that, I guess I'll end it here. But I'll take questions. I'm happy. We WonderBotz, we have a no matter what pledge. So if we say we're going to do something, we get it done no matter what. And we come across all kinds of craziness working with our clients in the world. I'm delighted to take a question, or we can have a glass of wine in a few minutes, and I can talk to you out. I assume we're having wine, but maybe not. If not, we'll go down to the bar and we'll have some wine. Okay. Well, anyway, then I guess leave you. I'll turn it over to you.